Hey, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at two very popular studio condenser microphones, the Audio-Technica AT2020 and the Blue Yeti. As always, I'm coming from the perspective of someone who's doing online content creation, whether that's YouTube videos or maybe streaming or podcasts, something like that, and not as a musician because I cannot play any instruments. Okay, so let's get into the comparison. In this video, I'm recording both mics simultaneously, and you can check the upper left-hand corner of the screen to see which mic is live at any given moment. And I'm running the Audio-Technica right into the Rodecaster Pro, and then recording via Adobe Audition with no post-processing applied whatsoever. And the Yeti is being captured by Audacity. Again, no processing is applied. The only thing I'm going to do to both mics is just normalize the audio level so that they are both at the same volume when you hear them. So what are these mics? These are affordable, relatively affordable studio condenser mics. They have similar specs, very similarly made, I guess you could say. The differentiation between these two mics, most obviously, is that the AT2020 is an XLR mic, so it's going to need additional equipment to utilize it, an audio interface. Whereas the Blue Yeti is a USB microphone, so you can just pretty much plug it into any computer, laptop, and get to recording right away. It's worth noting that there is a USB version of the AT2020 called the AT2020 USB Plus. However, I don't have that microphone, so if you want a more apples-to-apples comparison, there are other videos that feature that mic. But just know that in terms of raw capture quality or just how they sound, as far as I can tell, the AT2020 versions are pretty much identical. So if you are interested in that comparison, you can probably still watch this video and get a little bit out of it anyway. Also worth noting is that there's a Yeti Pro, which has USB and XLR in it. So there's that. In my opinion, the AT2020 is a pretty compelling option for somebody who is maybe stepping up from a USB only mic and wants to get into something a little more sophisticated, something with a little bit more flexibility. So you can get a mic that's $100 or sometimes even less, and it's an extremely high quality studio mic that you can record vocals with, you can sing with it, you can record instruments with it, and it's just, yeah, it's pretty cheap. So you could get the mic and say something like the Focusrite Scarlett Solo, I believe it's called, or the Audient Evo 4, which are consumer oriented and extremely affordable audio interfaces that you could power one of these mics with. All right, let's quickly talk about specs. And as I noted at the top, these are very similar mics they're in terms of how they capture sound. Both are condenser microphones. Both feature cardioid pickup patterns, although the Blue Yeti has multiple pickup patterns. For the purpose of this video, obviously it's in the cardioid setting, because that's what you would want to do when recording yourself. Both have a frequency response of 20 hertz all the way to 20,000 hertz or 20 kilohertz. Maximum sound input level of the Audio-Technica is 144 decibels, whereas the Yeti tops out at 120. So you can capture something louder with the AT2020 than the Yeti. The Yeti captures in 16-bit at sample rates of either 44,100 or 48,000 hertz, whereas with the AT2020, it's just whatever your interface and whatever it is you're using to record it can do. You can set those to be whatever you want, essentially. I do know that the USB version of the AT2020 shares the same 16-bit depth and the same sample rates as the USB Blue Yeti. Okay, let's talk about what you get with each mic. So the Blue Yeti is pretty much plug and play. It comes with everything that you need to get up and running with it. It comes with this sturdy 2.2 pound desktop stand that you can use to kill somebody with or prop up the mic. And it has some rubber on the bottom to keep it in place and not sliding around. It also comes with a mini USB to USB Type A, and that cable is about 10 feet long. So you get a nice long cable length to make it pretty flexible about where you position the mic. The AT2020, on the other hand, is pretty bare bones. You obviously get the mic and you get a stand adapter. And then other than that, all you get is this little pouch, which is leather or pleather, I don't know. And then it's nice and padded on the inside, so something to travel with. The USB version of the AT2020, I don't believe comes with the stand adapter, but on the other hand, it comes with a little tripod so you can mount it right on a desk. Let's talk about build quality and looks. Both mics are very sturdy. The housing of both is metal. The Yeti does have plastic buttons and switches, and overall like feels a little chintzy. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's kind of hollow feeling, and just the fit and finish is a little bit less premium feeling. And then the AT2020 on the other hand looks and feels like a mic that could cost way more than $100. It's just very solidly built, rugged, very durable, and it just looks overall a lot sleeker and just kind of an overall level of quality that's quite a bit of a step above from the Yeti, in my opinion. And in terms of physical features of the mics themselves, like what's on each one, the AT2020 really has nothing on it. No switches, no high pass, no presence boost switch, nothing like that. The only thing you can do essentially is just unscrew the mic adapter from the mic. The Yeti does have quite a few dials and buttons on it. So the Yeti can drive or power some headphones, so it has a 3.5 millimeter headphone input on the bottom as well. That's where the mini USB port is. On the front of the mic, you have a volume knob to adjust your headphone volumes, as well as a mute switch for the mic. And then on the back, you have a gain knob to adjust the input levels of the mic itself. And then you also have a selector switch to adjust the cardioid pattern of the mic. So I already touched on this a little bit, but in terms of how the mics look, which I feel like is important when the mics are going to be on camera, I said already that the AT2020 looks really slick, looks really nice, kind of a cool, looking mic. I would not be bothered by having this mic on camera. The Blue Yeti, on the other hand, looks a bit abominable. Sorry for the bad joke, but it does look a little bit more toy-like in my opinion. However, you can get it in black, which makes it a little sleeker looking. And then there's also like an anodized blue version that you can get. And then the Yeti Pro also has a different color scheme, and that looks entirely up to you. Whatever you think. Most important, obviously, is how they sound. And you've obviously been listening to them for this whole video, so you can just come to the conclusion on your own. And I think overall they sound pretty similar. Like I said, they're very similar mics in terms of, just the way they're built. So how they actually capture sound is similar in design, I believe. So I think you're going to get pretty good results from either mic. I guess one thing to compare is the self noise. I've heard that the AT2020 is kind of a loud mic. So I'm going to, be quiet for a few seconds, and then I might crank up the volume a little bit so you can hear the noise of each mic without anything else going on. In addition to that, I'm going to run through some samples that I've recorded with some other mics so you can get a feel for how these mics compare to some different competition. Namely, I'm going to run through the AT2020, the Blue Yeti, as well as the Shure MV7, the Shure SM7B, and the Aston Stealth. So those last three mics are dynamic mics, so a different type of mic than these condenser mics, but you can get a feel for how they sound with the same recording, essentially. Like the proverbial moth, the reader's attention is drawn towards the brightest things around. White words float in the air, static or rotating, and the lines of Mesengel verse heighten the dread by telling fragments of a ghostly narrative prefigured by the bus crash site the reader finds herself in. Like the proverbial moth, the reader's attention is drawn towards the brightest things around. White words float in the air, static or rotating, and the lines of Mesengel verse heighten the dread by telling fragments of a ghostly narrative prefigured by the bus crash site the reader finds herself in. Like the proverbial moth, the reader's attention is drawn towards the brightest things around. White words float in the air, static or rotating, and the lines of Mesengel verse heighten the dread by telling fragments of a ghostly narrative prefigured by the bus crash site the reader finds herself in. Like the proverbial moth, the reader's attention is drawn towards the brightest things around. White words float in the air, static or rotating, and the lines of Mesengel verse heighten the dread by telling fragments of a ghostly narrative prefigured by the bus crash site the reader finds herself in. Like the proverbial moth, the reader's attention is drawn towards the brightest things around. White words float in the air, static or rotating, and the lines of Mesengel verse heighten the dread by telling fragments of a ghostly narrative prefigured by the bus crash site the reader finds herself in. And as always, going with a condenser mic versus a dynamic mic comes with advantages and disadvantages for this type of setup. So content creator, podcast, streaming, etc. I think overall sound quality of a condenser mic is potentially the best. especially in terms of like recording voices. They're just more responsive to the entire frequency range of the human voice than a dynamic mic. However, a really high quality dynamic mic is probably still going to beat these lower cost condenser mics. So anyway, you're not really losing anything by going with these cheaper condenser mics. The problem with them, or something that you might run into in a situation like this, is just the ambient noise. They're much more sensitive, so they do tend to pick up more ambient noise than a dynamic mic, which is very not sensitive. So even if you have a really loud environment, they pick up a lot less of that noise. All right, so let me know what you guys think. Which one did you think sounded better? Do you think there's a huge difference or not really much difference at all? In my opinion, if you do want to expand your setup and get into something more advanced than just a USB mic, I don't think you can go wrong with the Technica AT2020 for only $100. And like I said, a lot of times you can get it for, $90, new. It's really hard to beat that, and just the quality of it and the way it looks, I think, is pretty top notch. There's nothing wrong with the Yeti. Lots of people have been using this mic for a long time. I've had it for 4 or 5 years now, and it definitely gets the job done. So let me know in the comments what you guys think, and also if there's anything that I missed, if there's anything you want to hear in terms of comparisons that would be useful that I didn't talk about. YouTube maybe is recommending a video somewhere on the screen. I don't know if it's on this side or this side, but if you liked what you saw and heard in this video, maybe consider checking out another one. I can't guarantee it's going to be any good, but do what you want. All right, thanks for watching this, and see you later.